Hey guys, thanks for coming back and joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Glad to have you back. So, in today's episode, we're going to give you 7 ways or tips that you can be more charismatic. So, what is charisma? Charisma is kind of the it factor. It's someone that people like to be around, it's someone that shows leadership, it's someone that shows confidence in who they are and comfort in who they are. Now, that's not bragging, it's not being an over the top, look at me type person. Do some of those people have charisma? Sure, they do, but it's not at all about look at me, look at me, look at me. Charisma is really about an inner confidence that shows to the outer world. And so I've been told throughout my life that I have a lot of charisma, which makes sense to me because I actually have a lot of confidence in myself and who I am. Now, that doesn't mean that everything about me is good. By no way, shape, or form is everything about me good. I know I have pretty significant faults, just like everybody else does. My faults are just particular and germane to me personally, but I'm okay with them. I know what they are. I've developed coping mechanisms and ways to make them more palatable for the people around me as I've moved through my life. And that's really what charisma around charismatic people is useful because they make us feel good. They help us relax. They help us be more confident in who we are, and they have a good time. So it's funny to me because I generally am very intense, very focused, very driven, and I will literally laser focus on stuff when I am focused on it. When I'm in kind of production mode or flow, as we like to call it, there is no deterring me from what I'm focused on. With that said, I like to screw around and have a good time. I probably have a darker sense of humor than most people. I find almost everything funny. Jokes other people probably find offensive, I'm not going to find them offensive at all. I'm going to either think they're funny or not funny, but I'm not going to find them offensive. So, like, there's the controversy around sports teams named after Native American tribes, right? So the Redskins have changed their name to the Commanders. The Indians have changed their name to the Guardians. There's people that still say the Chiefs or the Braves should change their names. I always argue, look, I'm super Irish, and when Notre Dame scores a touchdown, they literally send a friggin' tiny guy out dressed as a leprechaun to do push-ups. They paint his beard orange. Like, I mean, it is a caricature of Irish people. I think it's awesome. Fine with me. It doesn't matter to me. That's so what? Like, I'm Irish. I'm proud of being Irish. We fight and we drink, and I don't drink, so I fight twice as much to make up for it. So that's what charisma is. It's not look at me. It's not drawing attention to yourself. It's not over the top braggadocio. It's not those kinds of things. Those things can actually be very off putting. Those things generally are not very charismatic. Being charismatic really is like being comfortable in who you are as a person and letting the world see in an understated way that you're comfortable with who you are as a person. Joe Rogan has a lot of charisma. He's not tall. He has no hair left anymore, but he's very comfortable with who he is, and he's been that way his whole life. And that's why he was successful as a comedian. That's why he was successful in show business. And that's why his podcast does so well. It's genuinely interesting to listen to him have conversations across a wide range of subjects with a wide range of people. And he's prepared for those interviews because he's curious about those things. It's science, it's aliens, it's physical fitness, it's politics, it's show business, it's all sorts of things that get discussed on that podcast. He's very comfortable in his skin, he's very comfortable with who he is, and that's what resonates with people. So some people have that naturally, it comes to them very naturally. I've always had a pretty good sense of self. I've known what my strengths are. I've known what my weaknesses are. And that's important too. Knowing what your weaknesses are just as important as knowing your strengths. Now, what you can't do is allow knowing what your weaknesses are to allow you to focus on them, to obsess about them, and to let them kind of run your life. We all have weaknesses. We all can get better at certain things. And knowing what they are and being comfortable with them is okay. That's the way to have charisma. So, not everyone's going to have the what appears to be the natural charisma of like an A-list movie star or a well-known personality or a super popular professional athlete. But we can all work on improving our charisma and our charm. And so we gathered 7 tips that you can use to help improve your charisma. And we're going to go through those now with some examples, and hopefully you find this useful. So, number one, be an active listener. We've talked about it in previous podcasts, but people love to talk about themselves. So if you ask questions of someone and then you listen, like don't be on your phone, don't be looking off in the distance, don't be distracted. Actively listen to the responses that they're giving you to your questions or in your conversation, and they're going to find you very compelling. Hey, this person's really paying attention to me. This person's really focused on what I'm having to say. This person's really validating that I'm an important person. That active listening really shows that you value the other person you're talking to, and it makes them feel good. And it's that attraction. It's that, hey, this person cares about what I'm saying. That's charisma. That's what people are looking for. That's why people want to be around those kind of people. They make them feel good about themselves. It's not that they feel good about you being charismatic. It's that your charisma makes them feel good about themselves. And actively listening when you're having a conversation with people or you're in a meeting with people is one of the biggest tips you can follow to really improve on that skill. Number 2, confident body language. So charismatic people generally don't slouch. They generally don't try to hide themselves. They generally don't cross their arms, like kind of masking their body. I've been told I sit a lot like this when I'm listening to something. I sit a lot like this. And this is actually a very confident body position because you're open. You're actually exposing yourself to the people that you're talking to. It shows that you're not tense. It shows that you're not anxious. It shows that you're not worried. And you don't have to sit like that, but don't slouch. Make eye contact. When you shake hands with someone, shake their hand firmly. Say their name. Hey, Jeff, nice to meet you. Hey, Sally, nice to meet you. Those are ways that confident body language is one of the ways that you can show charisma. And again, it doesn't have to be outwardly demonstrative. It just can be subtle, but standing tall, looking people in the eye, and we'll get to that because that's one of the big ones as well. Firm handshakes, showing leadership. Like when I'm in a room with my wife and we're going somewhere, I will put my hand on the small of her back and just make sure that she's headed the right direction and that she knows that I've got her covered. And those are things that people with charisma and self-confidence do. So I would not suggest people you don't know putting your hand on the small of their back, especially women. It can get you in a lot of trouble. A good tip is just to never touch people at work, regardless of their gender, regardless of your relationship with them, especially in a work situation. Just don't touch people. It's not a good scenario. But when you're in social situations, it can be a good way to go with people that you know and you're comfortable with. That type of leadership and that type of take charge is charismatic. It shows leadership and it shows confidence, and that really resonates with people. So number 3, make genuine eye contact. And we say genuine eye contact because you don't want the psycho killer death stare. You don't want the creeper stare. And you don't want complete and total disregard. You want eye contact. Genuinely look at someone when you're engaging with them, when they're talking, when you're talking to them. Really make eye contact with them. And that is a very charismatic thing to do because it shows that you have the confidence to be fully in the moment, to be fully engaged, to not care about what's going on with the rest of the world, but I am focused on my interaction with you right now. You're the most important thing to me right now in this moment. And that shows a ton of confidence, shows a ton of charisma, and people will really pick up on that if you do it. Number 4, show genuine interest. If someone says something interesting, say, wow, that's really interesting. Not, yeah, well, whatever, I guess. If you're interested, show the interest. It shows vulnerability on your part. It shows that you listen to what they said. It shows that you are paying attention. It shows that you're engaged in the conversation. It shows that you like what they have to say. It makes people feel good about themselves. It makes them want to share more with you. It makes them want to talk longer with you. It makes them want to get to know you better. So by showing genuine interest, and one of the best ways to show genuine interest is to ask a follow-up question when someone talks about a subject with you. So let's just say that you're talking to someone and you don't know anything about the subject. I'll use myself, for example. I'm not a chef, food prep, cook type of person, but I find it interesting that other people are. So if someone is talking to me about preparing a meal, I will ask specific questions about, well, how do you do that? Like, how do you know which vegetables go with that particular type of meat? How do you figure that out? How does that work? How do you know how to pair this wine with this meat? Like, what are the characteristics of those two different dishes in the meal that make them compatible with each other? And they'll go off and explain even more to you. But it shows you're engaged. It allows them to expand on their subject. It allows them to look smart because they know a lot about that subject. And it shows that you're willing to say, I don't know anything about that subject, but I find it interesting when you talk about it. It's a very charismatic thing to do. That leads us to number 5, which is ask thoughtful questions. So asking questions that are open-ended, that are leading questions, that allow people to expand and talk more about what they just said or deeper into the topic that they just brought up with you is a very charismatic thing to do. So you want to avoid yes or no questions. So if someone talks about cooking and I say, you must really enjoy that, huh? They're going to go, well, yeah. But if I ask the questions, the follow-up questions that I talked about, tell me more about how you figure out the ingredients. Where did you learn to do this? How do you get better at this? How do you learn this stuff? Where did you go to understand these things? Or who did you work with to understand these things? Those are open-ended questions that allow them to give more information, to talk more about the subject, to expose more of themselves. And it shows a confidence in you that you're willing to say, I don't know anything about this subject, but I find it very interesting and I'd appreciate it if you'd educate me. In fact, that statement is a very charismatic thing to say. I don't know anything about that. I say that a lot when people have traveled because I've been all over the United States, but I've never been anywhere else. Sure, I've read books, I've seen movies, I've heard other people's stories, but I don't actually know what Ireland is like. I don't actually know what Italy is like. I don't actually know what Bulgaria is like. If someone's been there, I find that very interesting. My in-laws took like a month-long cruise on the Danube and all the countries that the Danube went through. So when they came back, they had a ton of pictures. And I sat down with my father-in-law, and as we went through the pictures, I asked him questions about the places. And he loved explaining to me the experiences that they had. And he loved explaining to me the things that they learned about the country and the culture and the people. And I learned a lot about those experiences as well, even though I wasn't there. But that's a very charismatic thing to do because essentially what you're doing when you're charismatic is you're making people feel good about themselves. That's what you're doing. You're doing it through your actions, through demonstrating your self-confidence and your ability to lead and your ability to take a back seat to them to let them feel good about themselves. Those are all very charismatic things. Asking thoughtful questions is one of the tools that you can use to demonstrate those things to other people. Express enthusiasm and passion, right? So if somebody says something that's really cool or really exciting, be genuine about it. Don't be fake and say, I love it, it's so exciting. But hey, that's really interesting. Wow, really, that happened to you? Unbelievable. Express that enthusiasm, express that passion. Man, I can't believe you were able to get that done. You must have felt really good about it. Tell me how that went. How'd you feel after it was done? What'd you do next? All right? Can you hear the enthusiasm? Can you hear the passion? Can you hear the engagement that comes from me when I'm asking those questions and saying those things? Those are the kind of things that demonstrate charisma. Those are the kind of things that demonstrate self-confidence. You don't want to be fake about it. You don't want to be phony about it. You don't want to be insincere about it, but genuinely show excitement when someone says something that's cool or exciting or different. That's a really charismatic thing to do. And then number 7, we've talked about it already, but be present in the moment. Confident body posture, real eye contact, genuine eye contact, showing enthusiasm, showing passion for the subject that you're talking about, showing genuine interest in the topics that you're talking about. Super important. So those are ways you can show more charisma in situations. And again, you don't want to be fake because people can see fake a mile away. So you don't want to be phony. You don't want to be insincere. You don't want to force these things. But when you're genuinely engaged in conversations, you don't have to force these things. They'll happen very naturally. But these are things that you can practice. Say, I'm going to go to a party, or I'm going to go to a work event, or I'm going to go to a sporting event, your kid's sporting event. Doesn't matter what it is. And you can strike up a conversation with someone, and you can practice these things in those conversations. Dates are great ways to go. Look, this stuff still works even if you've been in a long term relationship. I can tell you right now that my wife and I have been married for 30 plus years, and we have little things that we'll say to each other just to make the other person feel good. I will tell her sometimes, I'll just look at her and say, "You're so pretty." And she is. She's gorgeous. I love her. She's absolutely gorgeous. But I say it out loud. I don't make her guess. I don't let her think I've taken it for granted. She has curly hair that she straightens a lot. When she leaves it curly, I'll tell her, "I love your curly hair." I love when she straightens it too, but I love her curly hair. It's cool. I love it. It's gorgeous. She looks great when her hair is curly. And so little things like that, she'll come up and grab my arm and say, "You're so strong." Still works. I know she probably wants something. I know she's buttering me up. It works every single time. I'm just telling you, it works. And look, the bloom is off the rose. We know everything about each other after 30 plus years. Those things still work, and they're still important. And it's still absolutely important to demonstrate those qualities to a long-term partner, or it's going to get stale, it's going to get boring, and you're going to wind up in a spot you don't want to wind up. So all of these things work in new relationships, all of these things work in existing relationships, all of these things work in long-standing relationships. So we hope you're able to take these, employ them in your everyday life, and we hope that you're successful in kind of growing your charisma and growing your influence over other people, because that's the point of the episode today. So don't forget to check out our website, guys, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are there. All the links to social media are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday. You can subscribe to it there. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to our podcast on whatever channel or platform you consume it on. Really appreciate you coming back. Appreciate the support. Everybody have a great week, and we will see you next time.